All right,
All right.
here we are. It's Friday.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of figure what we'll do, since this is episode 2 and all. Every time we shoot an episode, we'll add something.
Mm-hmm.
So today we've chosen to add this not at all imposing shelf that's almost as tall as both of us in these little mini chairs. I think we just need to pretend it's not there until we take a drink.
Yeah, I'm pretty into the sparkling water.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that the plot of the two tall dudes in really short chairs in an all-white room is thickening thanks to the addition here.
So will every new piece be white?
This is a good question.
Yeah.
I've been wrestling with that internally.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I call you at 1 a.m., that's probably what I'm thinking about.
Okay.
Flag on the Moon, a podcast for commercial filmmakers and their clients, talking about enhancing video workflows to get more out of the video production process, featuring the occasional giant leap and a small dose of boldly going where filmmakers don't normally go.
As a company of creatives hyper-focused on making everything as great as it can be, we're here to plant a flag on the proverbial moon of video content. The pace of content consumption today requires more from the process.
And now your hosts, T-Dog and Wes.
What I'd like to talk about today is scripting and a custom video automation workflow, and how the scripting process is just as vital as it always is. You know, that's where everything kind of begins, and it doesn't end there, but it's where everything begins and everything springs from. And when you start talking about automation and you start talking about things being more efficient and more effective, it's real easy to be like, okay, that means it's not going to be as creative, right? Or maybe that means that it's not going to have the same level of custom touch. And so I think today is a good opportunity to use some specific examples of what we're working on to unpack that a bit and to show how scripting in a video automation workflow is very much the creative act that starts everything, but also how you kind of have to tweak the approach to be able to have more efficient workflow and ultimately a higher volume to go along with your creative. So I want to kind of do like a old way, new way type of setup for the scripting thing, to sort of like highlight the idea that, you know, we have been conditioned for many, many years to think of scripting for video content as a linear act. If I was, let's say, going to do a campaign for a tourism board, okay, and it's a quality of place or quality of life campaign. If I was to take the story, whatever the story is, completely out of it and just set it aside, what I would be left with are like the main takeaways that I want the audience to have at the end of the brand film that we're making, the campaign film that we're making. So things like great food, music's awesome,
Right.
you know, plenty of outdoor activities. Those core takeaways are like the essence of the script. And there's going to be a story that gets bolted onto that, and that's ultimately what the film for the campaign will express. So if I'm going to write that script, it's going to be, let's say it's 60 seconds. That's roughly 10 to 12 scenes. I'm going to shoot that script, those 12 scenes, with the talent. Maybe it's 3 days. We're out in nature. We're in restaurants. You know, we're modeling the proof of what we're talking about by going to the places and shooting them. That's the whole value of the video. And then we're going to edit that very expensive video, and we're going to put it on social media, and we're going to roll it out, and that's the thing. That hasn't worked like it could for a very long time. And I think that it's because, you know, people who are in scroll mode don't want to stop and take in the value that you're showing them. You know, they want to scroll. What if instead of doing that, you didn't post your brand film to social media at all, and you only posted it on your website? It's the only place. If I want to see this whole thing, this big, expensive, beautiful thing that all these people put all this love and energy into, is on a platform owned by the brand. So it's on the tourism board's website. And I take those 12 scenes and I shoot standalones of each, and I make a 4-week campaign where we roll one out every other day. And it's bumpered with campaign logo, and one of the slogans. So one of those takeaways that was the building blocks of the film is what people see. And that's what we're asking them to interface with, is the little bite-sized chunk.
Right.
And they click through, and then, well, now you've got a captive audience who does actually give a shit about your big...
The people who do click through are
That's right.
the people who
That's
care.
right. And you've given yourself way more of, I think, a chance of success in doing it that way.
So you described the old way of scripting. Like, what is a new script? Like, what does that look like?
A new way of scripting would be, sort of like in the example of, shooting your 12 scenes as standalones. That doesn't require anything new. That just requires a change of tactic. So if you were to now say, okay, I'm gonna have that same mentality, but I'm gonna add an iterator to the workflow, which is a tool to make the post process more efficient. I'm gonna take those takeaways that were important, and I'm gonna have all the talent read a version of them. So maybe that's now 4 different reads of the same takeaway. Well, now you've got building blocks. Now you've got maybe 30 or 40 things to work with. And you can use the automated workflow of both footage and graphics and iterator to now have 50 shareable things instead of 12.
I love the concept of building blocks, like using kind of modular script pieces and getting multiple people to read them, or filming them in different ways, and then you have these pieces that you can put together in different ways.
It's like a different version of editing. If the old way of editing was sifting for the right soundbite, well, assuming you still have to do that, you can't get away from that. But now you're going to use all those selects to be like, how many possible combinations of these wonderful soundbites can we have? One of the reasons I wanted to kind of sit down today was just to talk about some real world examples, like some things that are, not murky and theoretical, but are actually like, serve as proof of what we're doing and what we're saying. And, things that are new take time to catch on. I'm continually reminded of this. I've had to get real comfortable with that reality over the last 5 years or so. But we do have some cool projects going on that are unique expressions of this thing that we've been working on, that is custom video automation, which is to say, just building a unique workflow that's tooled around quality and quantity in video production. And the short story is that scripting is just as important, if not way more important than it's always been, because if you are going to get to that super efficient workflow, which we're about to highlight in conversation, you have to be buttoned up and you have to be organized.
And I want you to look at your hands, and I want you to pour it and then go like that. And think about this as like, as soon as this is the jar is coming up, your hand is tilting.
So one of the projects we have going on right now is an e-commerce project where we basically, scripting looked like us starting with just a whole shitload of information that we had to suss through. It was kind of ran the gamut from customer reviews to product listings and details and specs, and there's just a lot of stuff in there. What was the objective starting out with that for you, and what were the steps that you got to get there?
I mean, starting out, we have this huge mess of data, and we need to organize that and then align it with our format that we have. So we have a few different video types, different formats, and so it's really a matter of saying, just kind of building these prompts that we're linking parts of a database into parts of a prompt and kind of interleaving those things. And so then at the end of this LLM process, we end up with our first version of the scripts.
And then on the first batch, I took that and manually imagined all of the shots. So I was sort of the tastemaker in that one. And knowing what I know about sequencing and knowing what I know about how things cut together and how I wanted the rhythm of the edits to go, like all of that was very much a thing that I had total control over and had to spend some time working through. But after batch 1, we kind of had an archetype for what works, and we were able, the next time you did this process that you described, it was much more refined because you had like here's what we're going for to work with. Like, is that fair to say?
For sure, yeah. And I had examples. I had like success examples that I could feed into the system, and also we had refined the voice, and we just knew what we needed more. So
Yeah.
it was much smoother the second time.
Super true. And the third time, which we just wrapped up this week, was so smooth. Like, I came in on the third day and had like finished edits ready to watch. I think on 7 or 8 of them, we shot a total of 45. So just like that next day turnaround. And when I say finished ready to watch, I mean graphics, voiceover, footage selects. Like, it's all in one place. And so that's like, to me, that's all the proof that I need that we've been really evolving how we approach this. And it's not a stretch to say that we could we could turn these around in 48 hours if we had to. If there was a reason to do that. I don't know why you'd need to turn on product videos in 48 hours,
Right.
but you could.
We could.
Any brand that you're working with is going to have like an umbrella brand voice, but because of the destination of these videos are going on Amazon, very much a Amazon flywheel type of component to that, where the more videos you have, the better the algorithm works for you in your listing and your associated search terms. And so we have 3 voices. We've got a features and benefits voice, which is like a very traditional like sales smiley type of a voice. And then we've got a how-to and tips voice, which is like a helpful, informative, we're the expert type of a voice. And then we've got the product details voice, which is the important details about buying this product and keeping your pet alive. Like, I imagine that because like as a deep nerd in all kinds of things, I imagine that, every audience subset has like the nerdery audience.
Tell me the specs, man.
Exactly. How do you like sum up the prompt stack part of the process in Iterator of going from like a raw spreadsheet to these 3 unique voices that serve as the foundation for the production model that we're going to implement?
Initially, it starts just kind of throwing stuff against the wall. Like, I just am trying out just some different ideas to see what comes back, and then we look at it, we review it, and then we kind of handcraft our own first version of that. Once we have a few examples of like something that's good, then that also goes into the prompt stack.
Yes.
And so that's like this like helpful cycle that gets better and better over time as we have better examples and more examples.
So we're doing a project now. It is for digital advertising specifically, and that the outputs, the volume of outputs are going to help the client be more successful in being able to have many, many options to pick from in terms of getting in front of their audience and moving the needle for their client.
You work your magic and film everything, and out the other end, from my perspective, comes all of this great footage that's just ready to go. And so then that's the next step for me is taking this footage and then linking that with our database. So now we have organized information with footage attached to each piece of information. Can you tell me about like how that started, what the process was like?
Yeah, I think initially because we can work with a CSV file that comes from an Excel sheet or from a Google sheet. We started the scripting process there because we knew it would be like a one-to-one to get it into the app. And that proved to be challenging just because of the volume. There was like so many rows and so many columns. I was just kind of sitting there looking at it, and it was like, one of those like beautiful mind moments where like, the Pythagorean theorem just kind of emerged, like superimposed on top of the columns. But it was like, oh, this is simple. Like there's like 10 or 12 things that they want to say. There were some categories. So things like save time, save money, manage it online, ease of use, right? So there's these broad USPs, but inside of all of them, there's like 10 or 12 things. And so I sort of like stripped all of that out and just boiled it down to those main things, and then from there we built out the categories of story around those. So that process of like seeing past the spreadsheet and going, okay, at its core, there's some key takeaways that we have to build on, and our system's going to wrap around those. You know, the system is not, you know, everything. We started with the core things we wanted the audience to know, and then we put those into categories that allowed us to mix and match those core takeaways in a variety of different ways for a number of different reasons. The biggest one being a volume of advertising content to work with. And then what that allows us to do is to use, you know, a more programmatic approach that you devised to have more content than we need. Well, as the good video people know, the ending is the hardest part. It's time to get out of here. Time to say goodbye to the internet, T-Dog.
Bye.